we're discussing journalism and censorship in Turkey. Turkey emerged in 1923 after the fall of the Ottoman Empire during World War I. Like most young countries, the first few decades of its existence have been trial and error. Recently, however, the political climate in Turkey took a hostile turn when the Justice and Development Party came into power in 2001. The party, known as the AKP, has especially targeted journalists and their media platforms in an attempt to gain more control over the Turkish people and the information they receive. Since then, Turkey has received a concerning decline in media freedom. Journalists in Turkey now face a higher risk of harassment, imprisonment, and death than ever before. The AKP and journalists have been battling since the regime took over more than 15 years ago, but tensions came to a head in July 2016 when a failed coup d'état to overthrow the Turkish government resulted in a strict crackdown on Turkish media. Over 75 media outlets were shut down, including newspapers, TV, and radio stations. Individual journalists also received legal punishments for their alleged contributions to the coup. Since then, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, president of the AKP, has used anti-terrorism laws to prosecute and jail journalists by accusing them of writing terrorist propaganda and supporting the overthrow of the government. Erdogan has also been a proponent of media censorship through violence, often using his platform to incite attacks and death threats against journalists. These actions have completely undermined the constitutionally given right to press freedom in Turkey and have created an unwelcoming environment for journalists when they are needed most. There are numerous cases of censorship and aggressive government intervention in the media. Two very prominent and recent examples of this are the arrests of Can Dündar and Deniz Yücel. Can Dündar is a 55-year-old Turkish columnist and journalist who had received numerous awards for his work, including the International Press Freedom Award from the Committee to Protect Journalists. In 2013, he was fired from the newspaper Milliyet after writing too sharply, in quotes, about anti-government protests in Istanbul, in which 22 protesters died. Then, in November of 2015, Editor-in-Chief Dündar was arrested alongside a bureau chief after publishing reports and photos showing that the Turkish government had been arming Syrian rebel forces. The story revealed that the government was lying about the existence of weapons, casting a negative shadow on Erdogan.
When I asked President Erdogan about your case, he told me that you could be a spy. He told me that you could have done illegal things. What was your response, and what did the court say?
Courts say the other thing, they said it's not an act of terrorism, it's an act of journalism. That's why we were released by the decision of the Constitutional Court. I watched that video, and I don't know how can a president blame a journalist being a spy without any evidence in it.
So you were accused, you were put on trial. They even a gunman tried to assassinate you.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me about that. And I think your wife sort of batted him away.
Yeah, exactly. We were waiting for the decision of the court, and at that very moment we were in front of the courthouse, and someone, approached us and shouted at me like traitor.
Traitor?
Traitor, yeah. That was the word the president used for us. So,
The case of Deniz Yücel is a bit more intricate in nature, reflecting how Turkish laws are overreaching their borders and leaving a larger impact. Yücel, a German-Turkish journalist working for Die Welt, was arrested last month on February 14th for, in quote, terror propaganda and inciting hatred and enmity following the July 2016 coup. Backlash over the arrest spread to Berlin, where protesters had Free Deniz with a hashtag projected onto the Turkish embassy. Hundreds took to Twitter, tweeting the same hashtag to urge for Yücel's release, along with their chancellor, Angela Merkel.
The profound and serious disagreements with Turkey touch on fundamental questions of democracy and rights, on the role of the press and freedom of speech in Turkey, and on the fate of so many detained journalists, among them Deniz Yücel. Green Party members of parliament demonstrated for the imprisoned German-Turkish journalist, but they were asked to leave the chamber for violating the dress code.
Yücel has filed appeals for release from custody to no avail. Recent updates to the case revealed that Istanbul court ruled Yücel's detention lawful, claiming that the quote-unquote headlines, images, expressions, language, and the tone in the defendant's reporting cannot be evaluated within the limits of journalism and press freedom. More notably, however, is Erdogan's involvement in these two cases. The president went so far as to label Yücel, in quotes, a German agent, and accused both Yücel and Dündar of supporting terrorist organizations. As pointed out by a member of the government's opposition party regarding Dündar's case, in quotes, This case isn't based on law, it's political. That's evidenced by the president joining this case as a complainant. There is an attempt to pressure the court. Unfortunately, journalists are simply one group targeted by Erdogan's regime. Since the failed coup attempt, countless protesters have taken to the streets to speak out against their leader. Their dissenting voices, however, are met with harsh backlash from the government. The Turkish police have taken advantage of their heightened powers granted during the conflict. From the restriction of access to certain social media sites such as Twitter, to increased use of physical force, the Turkish people are now having to fight more than ever before for the basic freedoms once promised to them. Free press protests have been met with water cannons, tear gas, and rubber bullets, and over 37,000 people have been arrested. 2,500 of those were media employees and journalists. Suppression of press freedom seems to be foreshadowing Erdogan's plans to tyrannize his nation's people as a whole. The authoritarian nature of his actions is concerning, but more concerning is the world's seeming disinterest to it all. I'm Sam Pollock, signing off. Have a good one.